Welcome to my lesson about Unit 3 Conditionals. Thank you so much for viewing my application. Some of the standards that I cover in this unit are algorithms and programming, where they create a project and labs that showcase how you can do animation in P5JS. I moved to P5JS this year because of the IDE I was using, and previously I used processing. AP standards. There are several AP standards that I cover in this unit. Essentially, I cover variables, just primitive data types, but we also touch on objects because we are using ellipses, circles, etc. Another CSDA standard I cover is creating artifacts with procedures. We have built-in procedures in P5JS that we use. And the students also complete at the end of the unit a group project. So they have different roles where they collaborate on an IDE to complete their project. More AP standards. I cover primitive data types and parameters because they need parameters in the P5JS functions that they use. In my teaching practice for each of my units, I have an interactive notebook. If you click on the interactive notebook image, you can see an example. I also have a daily agenda. You can go to my website and see the daily agendas that I post. This is an example of one that we started Unit 3 Lab 2 for. I also have daily warm-ups. This is to help me to check for understanding and determine if I need to review any of the topics. I can also hover over the bars and see who has selected which choice when they're answering the multiple choice question. If you click on the image again, you will see an example of my daily warm-up. Preparation for labs. We do a think, pair, share activity where I display the current lab. The students think to themselves for a couple minutes. Then they discuss with their groups. They're in groups of 3. And then the groups of 3 go up to the board and write their thoughts as far as what did you notice? What did you wonder? And here's an example of a question that I used for Unit 3 Lab 2. As the students are writing their reflection on Google Slides, if you click on the Google Slides, you'll see an example. I answer questions by looking at what each group has written on the board, and this way I can drill down into what they feel like they need to know before they start the lab. The next step is the students write pseudocode. I review the pseudocode and I write comments and I return it to them. We also do live coding that day to practice the new concepts prior to writing the lab. Next day, the students peer review the pseudocode. This is an example of the questions that I ask. The students are actually completing this on turnitin.com, so they can go back and review what other students have written to them. The last step is the students take their pseudocode, add those to the IDE, and then write the code based on their pseudocode. So this sets them up for success. For unit projects, I allow them to choose a partner. So here's an example of a Google form that I use for them to make their partner selection. Then I go through and I try to give them the first or second choice for their partner. We do phases when we do projects. Here is phase one. Um, and they are essentially thinking about what they want to do. They draw a sketch of, um, in this case, their virtual pet. Then they describe the animation that they want to do for their virtual pet, and they write the pseudocode. Finally, phase three, they write the code. Here are some finished products from this group project. I feel like in this case, or in most of my labs, because the students have choice and voice, they are more likely to complete these labs, and they actually enjoy completing these labs. The students follow the same process for each lab and project that I assign. I find that this process has been very successful for me, with 90% to 100% of the students completing the labs. Thank you for taking the time to review my submission for the award.